what if I told you that some of the most dangerous manipulation doesn't come through insults, but through simple, harmless sounding questions? Because narcissistic people don't always attack openly, they ask. And those questions are designed to pull you in, confuse you, and quietly take control. If you're starting to notice these patterns, pause for a moment because awareness is power. And if this is resonating with you, stay until the end because understanding these questions is one thing, but knowing how to respond to them is where your power truly begins. Why are you so sensitive is not an innocent question. It's a calculated move meant to shift attention away from the behavior that caused harm and place it onto your reaction instead. In that moment, the conversation subtly changes direction. Instead of addressing what was said or done, you are placed in a position where you feel the need to justify your emotions. This creates an imbalance where your feelings are no longer valid experiences, but problems that need to be explained or corrected. What makes this question especially powerful is how it attacks your confidence in your own emotional reality. It plants a seed of doubt. You begin wondering if maybe you overreacted, if maybe you misunderstood, if maybe the problem really is you. Over time, this repeated pattern conditions you to second guess yourself before even expressing how you feel. You begin to censor yourself, minimizing your needs just to avoid being labeled as too much or too emotional. There is also a layer of control embedded in this question. By framing your reaction as the issue, they avoid accountability completely. They don't have to reflect, apologize, or change their behavior because the focus is no longer on them. Instead, you are pulled into a cycle of defending your emotions, which keeps you engaged and distracted from the real problem. This question also creates emotional exhaustion. The more you try to explain yourself, the more drained you become and the less likely you are to bring up concerns in the future. Eventually, silence feels easier than being invalidated. That silence benefits them because it allows their behavior to continue unchecked while you slowly lose connection with your own emotional truth. Are you really going to make a big deal out of this? Is a question designed to minimize your experience and make you doubt the validity of your feelings. On the surface, it may sound like a simple request for perspective, even a casual expression of frustration. But in reality, it is a subtle form of emotional manipulation. The moment you hear it, your attention shifts from the situation itself to evaluating whether you are overreacting. Suddenly, instead of focusing on the real issue, you find yourself defending your right to feel hurt or upset, questioning whether your reaction is reasonable. This question works by undermining your sense of emotional validity. When asked repeatedly, it encourages you to dismiss your own feelings, convincing yourself that your emotions are excessive or unwarranted. Over time, this creates a pattern where you begin to second guess your instincts, constantly weighing whether your response will be seen as too much. You may even start downplaying your concerns before expressing them just to avoid conflict or judgment. It also functions as a control tactic. By framing your reaction as the problem, the narcissistic person avoids responsibility for their actions. You become the one being examined while their behavior remains unquestioned. This not only redirects attention, but also reinforces their power in the relationship. The emotional consequence is fatigue. Defending your feelings repeatedly drains your energy and weakens your confidence in your own truth. Eventually, you may start avoiding expressing your needs altogether, believing it is easier to stay quiet than to be made to feel unreasonable. In doing so, the narcissistic person maintains influence while you unknowingly silence your own voice and boundaries. Do you even trust me? Is one of the most manipulative questions a narcissistic person can ask because it disguises control as concern. On the surface, it may seem like a request for reassurance or a check-in meant to strengthen the relationship, but the underlying intention is usually the opposite. This question redirects attention away from their behavior and focuses it entirely on you, making you feel like your loyalty is being questioned. Instead of addressing what caused doubt or discomfort, the narcissist frames the conversation so you feel pressured to prove yourself. The danger lies in how it traps your emotions. No matter how you respond, you are pulled into a psychological bind. If you say yes, you may feel uneasy about ignoring your instincts. If you say no, you are labeled as distrustful or disloyal. Either way, they maintain the upper hand, controlling the emotional narrative and keeping you uncertain about your own judgment. It also acts as a subtle form of gaslighting. By implying that your trust is the issue, they make you question whether your concerns are valid. You may begin to wonder if you are too critical or imagining things. Over time, this erodes your confidence in your perceptions and makes you more vulnerable to manipulation. Ultimately, "Do you even trust me?" is not about honest communication. It is a power move designed to create instability and shift focus away from accountability. Recognizing this pattern helps you protect your clarity and avoid getting trapped in their cycle of control. What's wrong with you is one of the most direct yet deceptively subtle tools a narcissistic person uses to undermine your confidence. At first glance, it may seem like concern, but it is rarely about understanding. It is about control and emotional destabilization. When asked, it instantly shifts focus from their behavior to you, making it seem as though the problem lies within your personality or emotions rather than the situation. This puts you on the defensive, and before you realize it, you are explaining or justifying yourself instead of addressing the real issue. The power of this question lies in how it plants seeds of self-doubt over time. Each time it is used, it slowly weakens your confidence, making you question your reactions or even your mental stability. You may start replaying conversations, analyzing your behavior, and wondering if you are overreacting. Over time, this pattern can make you second guess your own reality, which is exactly the goal. The narcissist does not need to confront you directly. They manipulate your perception so that you begin to blame yourself. It is also a method of emotional control. By positioning you as the problem, they avoid responsibility for their actions. You may find yourself constantly on edge, expecting criticism and feeling like your reactions are flawed. This keeps you in a state of heightened awareness and vulnerability, which strengthens their control while weakening your sense of self-trust. Recognizing this pattern is crucial because once you see it clearly, you can separate your identity from the manipulation behind the question. "Can't you just let this go?" is one of the most subtle and misleading questions a narcissistic person can ask because it presents control as calmness or reason. On the surface, it may sound mature or peaceful, as if they are encouraging harmony. But underneath, it is a tactic designed to push you into abandoning your needs and boundaries. It reframes your concerns as overreactions, suggesting that your desire to address an issue is unnecessary or excessive. This question works by shifting responsibility from them to you. Instead of engaging with the problem, they pressure you to feel guilty for bringing it up. It encourages you to suppress your voice and prioritize their comfort over your own. Over time, repeated exposure conditions you to avoid expressing discomfort because it feels like causing conflict. Emotionally, this creates a harmful pattern. You begin to question whether your reactions are valid or if you are being too difficult. You may even start believing that keeping peace is more important than expressing your truth. Meanwhile, the issue remains unresolved and they maintain control. Your emotional energy is drained while you are subtly trained to prioritize their perspective. Ultimately, can't you just let this go is not about compromise. It is a power move wrapped in politeness. Recognizing it allows you to reclaim clarity and stop being pulled into silent compliance and self-doubt. Narcissistic people often use questions to test boundaries and measure how much control they have over you. These questions are not driven by curiosity. They are strategic tools used to probe your limits, identify vulnerabilities, and see how far they can push before you resist. They might ask something that seems harmless, like, why are you upset, or do you really need to feel that way? But the real goal is to observe your reaction and measure your emotional openness. This tactic is effective because it keeps you off balance. Every answer you give reveals patterns of compliance or insecurity. Narcissists are highly skilled at reading these cues and using them to adjust their approach. Over time, they learn which questions trigger self-doubt or guilt and which ones push you to assert boundaries. The more they test, the more information they collect to manipulate future interactions. It also normalizes manipulation without direct confrontation. Because questions feel less aggressive than accusations, you may not notice the control being exerted. You think you are simply engaging in conversation when in reality you are being evaluated. Each response reveals your emotional patterns, which they can use to maintain influence. Recognizing that these questions are often boundary tests is essential. Once you see them as tools rather than genuine curiosity, you can respond with intention instead of reacting automatically. This awareness helps you protect your energy and avoid giving them the information they need to manipulate you. Another important point is how these questions are designed to create emotional confusion. Narcissistic questions rarely seek clarity. Instead, they are meant to make you doubt yourself. Questions like, why are you so upset? Or are you sure that's what happened? Shift attention from their behavior to your perception. The effect is disorienting. You begin replaying conversations, analyzing details, and questioning whether your feelings are valid. This works because people naturally seek clarity and fairness. When your experience is repeatedly questioned, your mind tries to resolve the tension by examining your own behavior. The narcissist uses this process to create cycles of self-doubt that leave you drained and uncertain. Over time, confusion becomes a tool for control. You may hesitate to speak up, question your instincts, or dismiss your feelings to avoid conflict. The more you doubt yourself, the easier it is for them to maintain influence. Recognizing this tactic allows you to see manipulation clearly instead of internalizing it. By identifying when questions are meant to confuse rather than understand, you can stay grounded and protect your emotional stability. Recognizing patterns is one of the most powerful ways to break free from this dynamic. Narcissistic individuals rarely act randomly. They follow predictable strategies to maintain control and keep you emotionally unsettled. Their questions are not isolated moments. They form repeating patterns designed to provoke doubt and shift accountability. By observing how they consistently question your feelings or perceptions, you begin to see the underlying strategy. This awareness helps you separate the manipulation from the surface conversation. For example, if someone repeatedly asks why you are so sensitive or tells you to let things go, you can identify these as tactics meant to minimize your experience. Once you recognize the repetition, it becomes clear that the goal is control, not understanding. This insight allows you to respond calmly without getting emotionally pulled in. It also prevents the cycle of self-blame and over-explanation. Instead of internalizing their words, you can see them as strategies designed to destabilize you. This helps you maintain clarity and respond consistently without getting trapped in endless justification. Seeing the pattern gives you power. It shifts you from confusion to awareness and allows you to engage with confidence rather than reaction. The key to protecting yourself from narcissistic manipulation lies in awareness and clarity. Each question they ask is not innocent curiosity, but a carefully crafted tool to shift focus, create doubt, and maintain control. Understanding these patterns allows you to see beyond the words, recognize the intention, and stop reacting out of confusion or guilt. When you identify these tactics, you reclaim your emotional power, strengthen your boundaries, and refuse to be pulled into cycles of self-blame or over-explanation. Breaking free is not about winning arguments or changing them. It is about reclaiming your own reality. By observing their questions without internalizing them, responding with intention, and protecting your emotional truth, you take back control of your life. Awareness transforms vulnerability into strength, confusion into clarity, and manipulation into understanding. Once you recognize the game, you no longer play by their rules, you create your own.